Ready.
You're good.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome everybody. We are live. We do this every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. California time or Pacific time. David is with us from Manifest. David, I'll let you introduce. But again, for those of you who don't know, we do this every Wednesday and we answer any of your immigration questions that you may have. And then we discuss whatever the current state of affairs going on with immigration. I'll ask a few questions to David before we get into Q&A. But David, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, of course. Yuri, thank you so much for having me back. My name is David Santiago. I'm Senior Immigration Counsel here at Manifest Law. My experience really is on a lot of corporate-based accounts or corporate visas. If you think of employer-based H1Bs, O1s, L1s, and also high-volume kind of employment-based ones when you look at the EB1A, EB2NAWs, and the perm processes. But I'm just happy to be back.
Yeah. And for Instagram audience, for some reason, it does not let me pick your question from an Instagram interface to this platform that I'm hosting. So if you want, please join us on YouTube. I posted the link there. And everybody else, I am ready to take your question, but hold on. David, let's start with H1B visa appointment situation. So in late December, you and I went live. Like everyone was we said like, don't go because craziness is going on right now. Appointments are getting rescheduled and people are getting to do 1G because of the social media vetting process that is needed to be done.
Right.
So what is our advice now? Should people go? Are people avoiding it? What are you advising to your clients?
So I'm still seeing a lot of delays, or I'm seeing also still rescheduling. It wasn't as, I would say, like consistent or common as last month when we last talked, but I still see it. So I do still think that if you do not have to travel, to not do it yet. I last time I was here too, I kind of noted I think this is going to go on at least for a few months, and then it might get better starting like the end of winter. Because I'm still seeing some people being rescheduled back to December of this year, when they had scheduled appointments in January or February, and I'm getting, messages about that from clients, from prospective clients when we do AMAs, so I would still be cautious.
Okay. So if they absolutely have to, then obviously there's no choice. But if they don't have to, then avoid traveling. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. And once you're here, or I'm sorry, once you're outside the United States, once you're back home, and you're waiting on an appointment and it gets rescheduled, then if there was a legitimate reason for you to leave, right, medical emergency within your immediate family, there's a really impending like financial burden maybe that you can show or prove, and your employer is supportive, then you could try to contact the embassy to see if they could give you some exception to give you a faster date, but that's not guaranteed. And because that's not guaranteed, that's like you said, Yuri, I still would not recommend. It's still for a safety thing, travel thing, to not travel or to not do your visa stamping appointments right now if you don't have to.
Got it. Okay. And then I know we have ban/pause on visa processing for 75 countries. That is specifically for immigrant visa. Is that helpful at all in terms of any big backlogs for Indians or other countries, or no?
I haven't seen any yet, right? I haven't seen any like positive upticks in processing for countries like Indian nationals that are not in the 75 banned countries for immigration processes. I do think though, overall, it's if a harm to one is a harm to all, from what I've seen, because of all the bottlenecks that are occurring, that's what I've seen. I haven't seen anything yet where processes are actually being faster now with this visa processing freeze.
Gotcha. Okay. And then someone did ask, can you talk about latest H1B wage rule and SOC code related to software development engineer? So
Yeah.
I guess first, like maybe you can give the new change that is happening in this upcoming lottery season, and then Yeah, maybe you can talk about like quickly.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, um, basically, the H-1B lottery system has changed. It's now wage level really heavy, which means that with per the wage level that you're given based on the SOC code and based on your location where the job is. So, if you're working in person, where if that location, if you're working remotely, where you're working remotely or hybrid, both of those locations, then the wage level is really going to dictate how many entries you have into this H-1B lottery this year. So, let's say, you are a software developer and you're in a very urbanized area, let's say San Francisco County, which is the one I always like to use because it's one of the most urbanized. It has a very high wage level, even for wage level one or two.
Mm.
So comparatively, let's say if you're going to somewhere else, let's say if you're working as a software developer, a software developing engineer in Georgia, in some of the outer skirts, more rural areas, remotely, then your wage level will probably be a lot higher. It'll probably be closer to wage level three. And that means comparatively, you would have three entries in if you work remotely with the same SOC code, but in a different area compared to if you're in a very urbanized area where you might only have one or two entries. And these entries it gives you a better opportunity, obviously, or a better chance to get the H1B lottery compared to an H1 wage level one. You only have one entry if you are able to work remotely in some rural area where it gives you wage level three. Then you would have been three times more likely to technically get the H1B because you have three entries compared to one.
Yeah.
Um, so that's normally the summary of it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, let me start the question from the audience. And again, for Instagram people, I may not be able to pick your question since I don't see it. So if you want, come to YouTube. Here we go. Mom has F4, I-130 approved with priority date of June 2007. Bulletin shows to December 2006 for dates for filing for India. What are the chances this become current this year due to spillover? I aged out. Hmm.
I do think now, if you think of family, employment based, any immigration visa process, everything has been much more scrutinized now, right? Everything has kind of been like there's a higher level of scrutiny. So that means from the initial stages of even just filing an I-130 in the family-based realm or an I-140 in the employment-based realm of green card, you know, so because of that higher scrutiny, it seems like there's less immigration visas being given. And because of that, it seems like the visa bulletins are slowly moving forward. It's not like back in 2024 when I feel like there was a delay or a complete pause for almost a year of any kind of categories, family-based or employment-based. But now I see periodic movement, not on a monthly basis really, but on a quarterly basis. For final action dates, I do see it happening, hopefully this year.
Hmm. Yeah. I applied for H4 EAD change of status on July 10th, 2025. My service record from F1 status is still active. Will this cause any issues or will it close automatically once H4 is approved?
Yeah, it should close automatically once your new status is approved. Or what normally happens is exactly that, right? You have pending status. It's good to have some underlying protective status too, just in case if something bad happens with your H4 RFE. There's some denial. There's something that maybe was filed incorrectly. So it's always good to maintain that status, like F1 status. Your I-20 is valid as long as possible because that just gives you an extra layer of protection. But it's not going to impact negatively your H4 or your employment or your work permit under your H4.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Here's the next one. What is the typical processing time you're observing for national interest waiver I-40 standard petition, non-premium? USCIS is just increasing the processing time on their website from 11 to 17 to now 20 months.
Well, yeah, yes. The the EB2NIW is, I would say, honestly, one of my favorite employment based because of the overall impact that someone can provide under the EB2NIW. However, it has been oversaturated, right? And that's why the processing times keep growing. But I've gotten approvals through normal processing,
Hmm.
in only a few months. It's not it really depends on the officer that has your case. Some of the time too, unfortunately, there's been processes that are past the 20-month mark or whatever it's stating. But then at least if it's past that, you can start sending service requests, contacting USCIS, maybe filing an ombudsman request or a congressional inquiry where there's a little bit more options for you to try to take. So honestly, it really does depend on the clarity and the strength of your case. I do think clear, strong, or EB2 and W cases are being approved much faster than the average. Masters or PhDs, lots
Yes.
of
Yeah, sorry, he
yeah.
does have a follow-up question. Would you
Okay.
suggest him to do premium processing, which might lead to an RFE, as officers might get into haste of closing it?
I think the trigger of premium processing with an RFE is less and less now compared to what I've at first 2025 I kind of was worried about that change of administration, um officers being like told to leave or to retire early, so there was a smaller amount of officers and everyone was kind of filing premium processing because of the change of administration. It seemed like to just save time RFEs are being sent. Now, I don't think so. I think it's just going to expedite. If it's a strong case, hopefully you'll get an approval, flat out approval. If there's some questions, an RFE, or if it's a very bare bones, not strong case, then they might just give you a denial.
Okay. I'm a master's computer science student. I applied for OPT on October 22, upgrade to premium on Jan 6th. My program ended December 15th, and my 60-day grace period ends February 12th. OPT is still pending. Question one is, does pending OPT keep me in valid F1 status after February 12th? If denied after that, what is my status and grace period? Um, and then second question is, if I transfer service to another school for new masters before February 12th, will I be eligible for OPT again after finishing? Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, uh, no, it's unfortunate. Honestly, though, it also really matters what your I-20 says. I think that's also like a pivotal factor that's not in this. Um, Technically, when OPT is still pending, you're still under F1 status. But again, you really need to see what your I-20 form says. That's the most important form for any F1 student here in the United States. And then the if it's denied, you normally get a grace period of 33 days, normally with F1 statuses, to get your belongings or adjust or find some other type of status to remain. And then normally, if it depends on the school for your last question. With a new master's program, normally you have to be in the master's program before you can actually do OPT, unless it's day one OPT,
Day one
which is
CPT.
specific types of universities.
Yeah, yeah. I think you mean day one CPT, not OPT.
Sorry, yeah, no, you need that to actually start working. But if
Right.
not, then I
Then
don't think it's
OPT.
possible. Yeah.
Right. Mm. And Austin, you might have a follow-up question. Please feel free to ask that as well. Okay, is EB2 process facing any issues right now, or it's same and smooth as before?
Smooth as before is I think the
Objective.
trigger yeah, is the problematic words here. EB2 process is still the same. I'm assuming this person is specifically talking about too before there was an announcement that the EB2 process was going to change, right? The strategies or the scrutiny was going to change. That hasn't happened. So the EB2 process for perms or for NIWs is still the same, even also for the EB1A category. So no changes as of yet.
Hmm. My employer is declining to extend my H1B via premium processing. They sponsor just standard extension. Can an employee pay for this premium processing?
Yes. An employee can pay for premium processing. That's the only thing an employer or an employee can pay for. Everything else the employer has to pay for.
So do you just ask your company saying like, hey, I understand you're not willing to do it, but I would be wanting to do premium processing and here's the money, basically.
Yeah, that's basically it. Or their firm. This happens to be a lot. Like I send an invoice to the company, and then but I send a premium processing invoice to the employee because company policies or protocols don't do premium processing. But if the employee wants to do it, that's still a viable option, and that's not going to impact the H1B, and that's completely fine.
Hmm. Okay. Can consulate officers in India reject H1B visa based on our response during interviews? Suppose they are not convinced that my job does not require to have a master's, even though it requires.
So the negative, I would say, right, about consulate officials is that it's very discretionary. They have solo authority to approve or deny a process. Normally, it's for something more, I would say, like civil or personal, right? Something doesn't add up with your personal information that you gave. You said you have no criminal history, but you do. There's complications to your previous immigration history, something like that. Not really of the actual process itself. I can't see an official arguing about this specific note because they are not the company providing this requirement, and they're not the attorney or the people that actually approve the H1B through USCIS. So I don't see this specifically happening, but they have discretionary power to approve or deny anything.
Hmm. Okay. My start date OPT is February 9th, and what steps should I take? What would I be issued an RFE? Everybody who applied later than me also got approved. Is this the same person? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Accepted OPTs February 9th. I don't think I have enough clarity to answer this question as of right now because what do you need? What's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. My friend has 4 years of F1, should be 5 years, but I don't know what the case is. Now he's planning to file H1B. His F1 is expiring in August. What and how should his timeline be?
So his timeline should be that he gets selected for the H1B lottery this year, right? Because then once he's selected, registration opens up right I think March 9th this year. Then once everything has been maxed out, then once you're selected, normally by April, then you start the whole process of changing your status from F1 to H1B. There is a grace period in between while it's pending. So while the change of status is pending from F1 to H1B, your friend should be fine. But the caveat or the most important thing is that they are selected for the H1B process this year.
And that gap is called cap gap. Is that what we?
Yeah, yeah, right. That's the usual like terminology for it. But yes.
And I wonder, Vedika, are you referring to the stamp, like the visa stamp, F1 visa stamp that is expiring on August versus because if it has 4 years of F1 and then OPT, maybe it's not expiring in a way. The stamp is expiring, but the status is not. Is that
Right.
right, David?
Yes, that's completely correct. Right. So I assume they were talking about maybe like their I-20 or their full OPT was expiring
Yeah.
by August, but you're completely right. If they're just talking about the visa, that doesn't really matter because if you stay in the United States, the F1 still is DS, duration of stay. As long as you're studying, then as long as you're in the OPT, as something related or connected to your I-20 to your college, then that's the only thing that matters. So hopefully, regardless if you're talking about the visa stamp, then you're going to have plenty of time still with your I-20. Just look at your I-20. But if not, if you're talking about the I-20 specifically, the status that you currently have internally in the United States, then that cap gap or the wait time, the grace period that you have while doing a change of status is going to protect your friend too.
Yep. Okay. I applied for renewal within 6 months of expiry and received only EAD approval from the current combo card expiry, and advance payroll got approved after the current combo card expiry. What is current combo card?
Current combo, the current combo card. Maybe they mean the work permit card with
Advance payroll?
advanced parole. Like the combo was expired and then it was approved. I applied for renewal within 6 months of expiry and received only EAD approval before the current combo card expired, and AP got approved after the current combo card expired. I don't know what the question is though, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe rephrase that question.
Yes, and let us know.
Currently, I don't see any appointments available for H1B. Is this related to current situation? Do you think it makes sense to take an appointment in March?
So it depends on what your current status is. Your I-94 says too, I guess status wise for H1B. It what I'm hoping for March is, we'll be closer now. That'll be the end kind of winter, beginning of spring. I'm assuming things are going to be a little bit more calm where they're not going to push back. So it should be fine for you to take an appointment, especially if you need it for March. But if you still see, especially regarding the announcements, you'll be getting updates from UD2. But if you still see the same rescheduling that is happening, then maybe, wait until the absolute last minute when you have to actually schedule the March appointment. But no, that's very common. There's the visa stamping appointments for H1B in India and all around the world are just becoming more and more delayed or pushed back.
Hmm. Yeah, I think again on Instagram, Rutuja asked this. You see my name, but she asked it on Instagram. I filed change of status within my grace period from H4, H1B to H4. Still received notice to appear. Um, what can I do in such situation?
Oof, yeah, no, that's hard. I have been seeing that more common, not with my clients, but just overall from the immigration realm, that people who are in the grace period for an H1B any type of non-immigrant status, even if they file within the correct timelines, they could be sent a notice to appear. My recommendation would be to get an immigration attorney that focuses on actual like crimmigration, which is what we call it, right? Criminal immigration aspects with the immigration court, and then provide your all receipt notices, your change of status, everything to show that you have done everything correctly and this NTA was delivered incorrectly.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think we covered this, but let me ask you again. Due to 75 countries immigration pause, will there be a spillover, and due to which movement of EB2, EB3 dates will be faster
Mhm.
for backlog countries?
Right. I'm not seeing it yet, but it's a good argument to show that regardless of this, all the other announcements that are also happening, of all of the delays, all of the bottlenecks, or all of the pauses of that, or in the higher scrutiny of these immigration processes, that the visa bulletin, I have seen it slowly but surely move forward for India, China, and the rest of the world. Do I think it's still going to be consistently moving forward? Yes. And hopefully it does go faster for Indian nationals, because obviously they're not in the visa pause. But we'll see that, I think, in a few months.
Yeah. My visa is valid until October 2026. I plan to travel in January and return by the end of February via Atlanta. Please let me know if this is safe or is there any issue.
No, that should be safe. I mean, you're fine. You still have your valid status until October. If it seems like you're just doing a short trip, for a few weeks. That's not the issue, right? The issue would be if, let's say, your H1B was expiring or your visa status is valid until February, and you're going to be out of status by the time you try to return. You have to schedule a visa stamping appointment. Then that's the issue. But you should be fine here.
Yeah. Okay. Can a remote worker living in L1, level 1, is it level 1? Yeah, probably, work 9 to 5 from a higher level county? What happens to pay if they later move back?
Okay, so yeah, when I see L1, I think of the L1 visa, which maybe you're right.
Yeah, yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought of it as an L1 visa, but then
yeah.
I switched it to.
Wage level one. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So okay, so from a higher level county, okay, so it depends on when you're filing the case, or
Mm,
when in time, right? You're filing the H1B. If you already have H1B status and you're just moving, or you're moving, then it depends on how far you're moving, right? If it's not like a commuter distance, if you're really moving far away, then you just have to do an H1B amendment, but that's not going to impact on how you're selected for the H1B.
yeah.
H1B wage level one. Okay. Yeah. So that's not going to impact That specifically, that you just need to do an H1B amendment if it's more than commuter distance. Like if it's not like I'm filing from Miami, but then I'm moving to a smaller city in Miami, Coral Gables, then that's not going to change anything. But if you're going to change, like if I live in Miami and I'm moving to Nashville, Tennessee, then you most likely will have to do an H1B amendment.
Yeah. One of my friend is on H1B and is thinking to start investing in stock market. What's your advice on that?
Passive income is okay, right? Passive income when let's say if stock market, right? That you're not doing anything, you're just investing, you're putting in your money in something that will grow by itself. If you own property that you're renting out and you're getting the renting out proceeds, all of that is passive income. That shouldn't be a problem.
Hmm. My initial OPT ends on April. When should I apply for STEM extension? And according to current situation, what do you think I apply for premium or regular?
I think you should apply for STEM extension as soon as possible. Just just because of the timelines. So if it's ending up in April, you should apply soon, have everything ready, and ensure that the student officer for immigration at your school is there, willing to help you. Just because there have been so many delays. I with the
Don't
current
they have
situation.
they can
Mhm.
only apply 90 days before
Yep.
okay, so you're saying apply as soon as that 90 days start, uh,
Right.
and then premium versus regular, even if they apply 90 days before, they by default get 180 days of extension, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
And
So
then they should do premium maybe after, if they're closer to reaching that 180 days of expiry. I don't know, that's what I would do, but I'm not a lawyer.
yeah. No, that's smart, right? Because you're saving up as much time as possible. You can apply, you still have your grace period, right? From when you're transitioning from OPT to STEM OPT. And then just so I don't think premium processing is absolutely necessary. However, like Yudi said, if you're almost up at that time, right? Like a month before, you're 5 months in the extension grace period. You still haven't received something, then there's probably something. There's something wrong. Usually, like it got lost in the mix of everything, or there was some delay. Some officers change, and when there's a change of hands in a process, normally some cases unfortunately get delayed a lot. So then doing premium processing kind of demands you to get a response.
Mm,
Um, so yeah.
got it. Okay. Diksha on Instagram is asking, she's on F1 visa and she wants to know more about O1. If an employer sponsor me, is it possible, or is there any other pathway? Diksha, first of all, reach out to me on email so I can connect you with Manifest team. But overview, David, if you want to give like, can F1 student have a pathway to green card through O1?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely a pathway. It's an O1 specifically is non-immigrant, right? Like an H1B, but the O1 is a little different, right? H1Bs, you normally do the with H1B lottery system, right? And then there's a maximum of 6 years unless you have an approved I-140 based off of some kind of green card route. With an O1, you can actually apply for it and you can renew it indefinitely. You can renew it forever if you want. So with the O1, it's O1 extraordinary ability, but it's not that such a high standard as, let's say, an EB1A extraordinary ability based for green card purposes, right? Normally what happens is people who don't or do the O1, there's still criteria that you have to meet, at least 3 of the 8 criteria that's shown for the O1, and you need a job offer letter. So you need an employer for the O1. And then that kind of gives you a really solid framework to eventually also look for something else, like an EB1A.
Mm,
Right? So the normal process for someone applying, especially as an F1 student, judging the work of others, doing peer reviews, right? Joining top skilled associations or memberships in your field, showing the original contribution or scholarly articles, media about you, critical role, or if you have a high remuneration that you can show that you will have. All of these are important factors. You only need to show 3 and your job offer, right? to show that overall you are extraordinary ability or you have it within your field, and there's an employer sponsoring you for that. Then once you're approved for the O1, normally it takes a few years, months, sometimes two. You build up what you need for the EB1A, and then you can seek EB1A independently. You don't need an employer for an EB1A.
Yeah. And on that note, again, anybody who feels that they are O1 ready or EB1 ready, you feel like you have the profile, you can get your profile evaluated by Manifest for absolutely free and 30-minute free consultation call. Link is in the description. Plus, we will be doing a masterclass on this as well. I think January 30th is the date we're thinking, but I'll send you details as soon as we have finalized. David, is traveling on STEM OPT risky? What do you think?
No, I don't think it's risky. The most important thing when you travel, because every entry is discretionary, right? It's discretional based on the officer, is that you have everything lined up. You have your I-20, you have your approved any approval notices, receipt notices, IDs, everything organized, right? Just in case. I don't think it's dangerous though to travel with STEM OPT.
Yeah. Okay. One of my friend received an FDNS compliance review. Is this something to be concerned about? And how long does the process usually take?
So I'm not sure about timelines. Normally with compliance, right? It could take a while. So
What- What's
I'm
an
I'm not a right.
FDNS?
Specifically for the FDNS, that's what I was going to say. I'm not specifically I'm not specifically aware of the specific one that is being talked about, but any compliance things, let's say, or even if let's say there's compliance things with the H1B process. Let's say that you send, yeah, okay. So in any FDNS compliance that happens with H1B processes, let's say you file an H1B, and they do a worksite visit. They visit you where you say your H1B is happening. Then the Department of Labor is going to have take enough time to really review if everything's correct. That's why when you do an H1B, you get a public access folder or a public access file. This shows like that the posting notices were correct and they were done, they were signed and dated in the locations where it has to be, acknowledging that you saw the LCA, the salary, the responsibilities, that it was approved for your employer. It's not common that there will be a worksite visit, but it does happen, especially with this administration. So I have seen compliance issues. I didn't know specifically it was the name of DNS tech specifically, but I have seen just compliance and worksite overviews for H1Bs before. It could take a few months usually, or actually sometimes even less. But there's normally like questions, like if you said you work remotely, then they come visit you. Or if you said you're working in person, but you're not working in person, you're working remotely, then that could cause a denial, right? Because the wage level was based off of where you're working. Um,
But we don't
Normally,
know how long it takes. It. Do you know?
not specifically, there's no specific timeline from what I'm aware of. I think it could take like a few weeks to a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My H1B interview was rescheduled to April. I listed Facebook and Instagram on DS160, but missed Twitter, Reddit. No post, no activity. Should I file a new DS160 or proceed and explain it at interview?
You can do both. I always think, especially for this, especially if there's no post activities, this is something that can be cleared up just at your interview. It's nothing, I would say, something too material or large scale where it's going to cause an issue where they're going to make you refile a DS160. I really do think that you just explain it in your interview.
Yeah. And then maybe can he submit saying like, hey, here's, I know I didn't submit it, but here's like a Twitter and Reddit handle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can have it ready for them or have a copy of it or have a have print out of all your information for that for the officer too.
Yeah. One of my friend got RFEs multiple times during his I-140 EB1A. What happens if USCIS is not convinced? Will it cause noise?
Yeah, it could. It could cause a noid, it could cause a denial. It's not normally if USCIS is sending multiple RFEs, it means that there is some convincing that they need, but it's not a lost cause. An RFE doesn't mean it's going to be a denial. Neither does annoyed, honestly. So I have seen this sometimes. It's not common, but I have seen an RFE being responded to. You send it back, and then you get a second RFE about similar or different points. Normally it's like after you get an RFE, you find they get all the criteria, they approve it, but now they have an issue with the final merits determination or continuing work affidavit. Something different than the actual criteria. Then they have more questions. It doesn't lead to an automatic denial or annoyed. You just have to see what happens. Sometimes it just happens with an approval. They just had needed more information.
Yeah. Okay. Traveling STEM OPT during my EB2 process. So
Okay.
it sounds like his EB2 process is going on and he's
Yeah.
on STEM OPT.
It depends on what kind of EB2 process you're doing. If it's just an EB2 and IW, that's fine because it's an I-140 that's just pending. And you can travel or you can be in the United States, be outside the United States when the I-140 is being decided. With the and even with like the perm process, it shouldn't be an issue either when you're traveling. But I always want to just steer not it should be fine with traveling. It's just that the perm process, there's much more steps. So you don't want to miss something just in case, right? Because after you get the prevailing wage determination, there's that whole recruitment process. But that's all based on the employer. That really shouldn't impact you. I would just let your employer know before you do the travel. But for both EB2 processes, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yep. Okay. Pranay from Instagram is asking, I'm in initial OPT. Can I work as an independent contractor jobs at OPT on OPT?
I think for this, because I've had friends and I've had clients do this, it just really depends on what work you're doing, right? It depends on what work you're doing and how it's related to your specific field. If you're just trying to be an independent contractor in a field or a sector that's not related to your degree at all, then it's going to be denied and it's going to be considered as unauthorized work. But if you apply and become an independent contractor through F1 for something that is very related to your field, you just have to apply for that, let your officer know, and that shouldn't be an issue.
I'm currently on STEM OPT and recently received a speeding ticket for going 20 miles over the limit. I've paid the fine and wanted to confirm whether this kind of traffic violation or related points has any impact on the visa status.
No, it shouldn't. It's not something of moral turpitude. It's not something that I would say is like something extremely negative that it happens. You've resolved it. That's the most important thing, right? For paying the fine, doing whatever traffic school if you needed to, or just doing everything that you need. That's what you need to do, right? It shouldn't impact your current STEM OPT, and it shouldn't impact, let's say you get H1B, it's something else in the future. If they ask about it, you should just be honest about it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Any update on DV lottery 2027 registration dates? Will it be suspended forever or is it going to come back? If yes, when? What's DV lottery? Diversity visa?
Oh, diversity visa, yeah, diversity visa lottery, yeah. No, it's still on hold. There's from last thing I saw, there's no mention of it coming back or it being completely removed entirely. It's just on pause for right now.
Okay. One of my friends wants to change his location. Can he change state while filing H1B extension and change from hybrid to remote? His employer is okay.
Yeah, just the LCA has to have that information, right? The posting notice has to be changed. It has to be updated to the new area. Wage level has to be appropriate for the new location too. But that shouldn't be a problem. It's kind of like a combination H1B amendment extension where while you're doing the extension, you're also making some other changes to the H1B. That shouldn't be an issue though.
Yeah. Am I allowed to travel domestically during change of status from F1 to H4?
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. I know there was a lot of talk, and I think we talked about this actually with you last time I was here, but there was someone with no status who did a domestic flight, and they were detained and deported back to their home country. But if you have change of status pending, right, from F1 to H4, just always keep, like I said, your receipt notices, approval notices, any notices that you have because that's what's really important for the USCIS officer or for the ICE agent specifically to make sure that you are compliant if they stop you. But domestic travel should be completely fine. I haven't even seen domestic travel wise officers, but also I've just been coming back and forth from New York, but that's a pretty big hub. I think you
Yeah.
should be fine.
Yeah. Is it safe to travel on initial OPT? I'm currently working as well. Recently heard rumors that even OPT are getting revoked while on travel.
Yeah, I have I have heard rumors, but I actually haven't seen this happen. I've seen it like on Reddit, I think, and some other posts. I haven't actually seen this. I haven't had any clients, client friends, potential prospective clients mention this. Just make sure because I just think that right now, Customs and Border Protection is they're much more I guess specific or they're really like focused on ensuring that you have everything you need. Have
Mm,
your I-20, have all the approvals of your OPT, any status changes, anything that you need, just bring everything with you. Don't think that you should be fine. Just always carry documentation with you, especially in this new era of just changes in immigration law happening on a weekly basis.
yeah. Does H1B wage-based selection rule apply to non-profit organization?
It so it depends on if they're talking about the H1B like just lottery, right? Not because there's also the cap exempt, right? For like researchers, everything else. That's a little different. But for the H1B lottery system, if it's still a nonprofit, the wage level, yes, it still applies. That doesn't mean though all hope is lost. I know nonprofits don't pay usually as much as, if you look at corporate companies. But I've had before, and we currently have clients now that are in the nonprofit world. It's really just normally though too, or a lot of nonprofit organizations are in rural areas or places that need more assistance. So the wage level isn't that big of it, doesn't impact it as severely as one might think at first.
Yeah. And my guess is, again, Ronnie, correct me, but my guess is he's probably asking for H1B cap exempt. And in that case, you're exempt to lottery altogether. So, yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that's why, like, but just in case, because I know for nonprofit,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
touchy subject with either or. Cap exempt, don't worry about it. For if it's for the H1B lottery system, just this wage level is still impacted, but there are ways to maneuver around it, especially if you're in the nonprofit world.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. How does your investing advice change if it's day trading, option tradings on H1B? This with the intention of earning passive income, not running a business, maybe doing 20-30% of the income.
Okay, okay. So like day trading, I think it depends on how intently are you doing this, right? Aside from work, if you're doing this all day, every day, and if you see the changes happening, right? If you see like you're just really focused on it, it's it's to the point of who's doing it for you. If you're having a financial advisor doing the day trading for you, then you're fine. If you're yourself independently are working and also just
Wake up, look at the market, and then do the trades. You buy something and then you sell.
yeah,
Like you're like actively doing this, then it becomes an active versus
right.
passive.
Right. I agree. I think if you do it all day, every day, like that's impeding your work probably too. That's more of I would say a red flag. If you have a financial advisor do it, then that's fine. But just you can't be doing anything that you feel like is work. I think that's a pretty if you have that feeling of this feels like work, it probably is work.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Good session. Okay. Can spouse previously traveled on H4 visa and left country come back on valid approved B1, B2 visa? What kind of questions can be expected at the port of entry?
I mean, it's possible, but right, if they see family ties, right, which is going to be the biggest question, then they're going to ask you, why are you doing a B1, B2? Is this actually to only come and visit for a very temporary amount of time, or are you using this to then later change your status? So, it's doable. The most important thing that I tell clients as well is intention. right? You have to explain to them what your present intention is. No, this is just to travel. I left my H4 status because I needed to go back home. I only wanted to come travel, visit family and friends for an very limited amount of time, and then come back. You know, I have no intention to doing a change of status or anything. This is my intention. I think that's the most important thing. That's probably going to be the biggest question that's going to be asked of this specific person. And you just have to be clear. And also showing family ties outside of the United States. You have investments, you have properties, you have a job outside the US would help further the chance of actually getting your B1 B2 approved.
Yeah. For a Bangladeshi national who received an H1B last year, how do the new restriction affect the green card application process?
So for I'm like 95% certain that Bangladesh is in the 75 process freeze. The if the country is in the visa processing, right, with the new green card application processes, it's really impacting consular processing.
Hmm.
Adjustment of status,
If
right,
this person were to be in Bangladesh and get a green
right.
card versus if they're doing it inside the United States, should be fine.
Right. It's different. So they should be fine. It might take a little longer. There might be extra vetting processes, procedures happening. There you most likely will have an interview. Now it's almost certain for family based, and it's now I would say 60% more common for employment based I-140 approvals, green cards, to have an interview or to be asked for an interview.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on F1 post completion OPT and have an offer for a paid major related internship at 20 hours per week. International department suggests 21 plus hours, but the employer can't. Is 20 hours per week allowed? And how do I handle this?
So with that, I think they're just making sure because with part-time, that shouldn't be an issue specifically, but I think it's odd that they're suggesting 21 plus hours. I think if you just say 20 hours per week, that's max that they're going to approve, then I think ISS should be fine with that. I wonder why they're focusing on the 21 plus though. That's
Like,
very
can
odd.
we not do part time on STEM
You
OPT?
can. You can. That's where I'm confused. And also full time is only 35 hours. So it's not even the full 40 really. So you
Yeah.
don't I don't really understand why this specific officer. I would maybe speak to someone else in the office as well because that's part-time. You shouldn't have an issue doing part-time work, especially if it's really related to your field.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it says suggests, like,
Right.
that's the recommendation. You can just tell them, like, move forward.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, yeah. Rishabh, yeah, maybe talk to them and reach out if you need more help.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, my husband is on L1B visa in the US since 2024, expiring this year. His company won't sponsor H1B. So H1B lottery is our only path. Wait, his company won't sponsor H1B. So it was. Do you suggest any other? So that was the only path. Now, do you suggest any other
Oh.
legal pathways or how to approach H1B sponsors?
So I think that yeah, well with the L1, the interesting thing too though about the L1 and the H1B is that the years, and this is actually what my boss informed me of too, because she's like the L1 H1B pro, is
Yeah,
that the years impact each other. So the work or the years that they've had
it
on
does sound.
L1,
Yeah.
right? So which is a huge thing to consider. Just FYI. But I think doing an approach for potential sponsors of doing the H1B and then also seeking a residency pathway as well sooner rather than later because of the gap of the L1B visa that already took some time off. I think it would be the best route. Or if this person is on L1B, that means they have specialized skill and knowledge in their field for this company. So maybe an O1 would be a good thing to look at as well.
Yeah. Yeah, H1B sponsors, I mean, it's January 21st. You will have to find a company and
Yeah.
sponsor, get picked in the lottery this year. It's going to be very tight. I mean, especially if your L1B is expiring. So maybe O1 might be a better path. to start digging into. Nabila, reach out to me. I can help you connect with manifesting. Cool. I've completed my master's in food science in December 2025, and I got a job as a food science technician position. When I checked the H1B wage level, my 55K salary could fall into level 4. Is this real?
Is it well, when I think of like the technician position, then normally with a technician, you consider for some reason they really like lower the wage levels. Like it's possible, even if you're, I would say, overqualified. It's all based on the job position, right? And the location. So it's definitely possible. If you looked up the flag, right? The flag, like the prevailing wage,
Department of Labor, yeah.
right, Department of Labor, like wage search, and that's what it says based on the SOC code, the location, and just make sure that you're marking it for this year, right? 2025, 2026. Then that's the wage level. It's some wage levels, yeah, are surprisingly low, but that's because a lot of the areas in food science, normally you're in a rural area. It all depends on the geographical location that you're at. So it's possible. It's
It is
real. If you did it
possible.
right, it's real.
Yeah. Okay. Any idea if USCIS updated their portal with county information, or will metropolitan statistical areas be used for H1B registration process?
Still counties. It's still based on counties. That hasn't changed. That's still the same. That's still the same analysis that we're using too for the legal analysis that you have to do for the actual job codes now for this coming H1B lottery.
Mm,
Metropolitan is a great idea though.
yeah. I'm on F1 OPT starting January 1st, 2026, and enrolled in volunteer work with an NGO. I plan to travel to India for about 3 weeks in February due to family emergency. How safe is re-entry to US on OPT?
So yeah, and this has been such a common thread. It does seem like, and like I said, I've seen on the post too, that people are really scared with OPT. With the I-20, all of your proof of ID and also all of your immigration status there, you should be fine to travel. If there's anything that you're worried about specifically, just let us know. But that you shouldn't have an issue with travel.
Yep. Okay. Can I work two jobs while on H1B? First one being a full time role, another one being a part time remote role. In this case, are there any wage specification for the second part time?
So if your employer is okay with it and there's a second worksite location for some reason, that's an option with H1B. But it's basically it should be though it's normally under the same company, like the second workshop, or if you're doing two job companies, it's okay, but your employers have to agree to this, and you have to include all of this information too prior. Yes, that will impact overall the wage level, but that's kind of more of a your employers are okay with it, and that you have to see where the jobs are, what if they're if how different they are, and what the SOC code is. Because if not, then you're going to cause some issues or complications. But if one employer says yes and one employer says no, then no, you can't do this.
Mm, okay. I'm currently in F1 initial OPT, my kid on F2. However, my wife has B1, B2 visa, which was sponsored by the company. Both my wife are in India, wife and kid, I'm assuming. Do I have to change her visa to F2 as well? Why?
Um, a B1, B2 usually is not sponsored by a company though. It's usually just like you apply for it and you're doing it for business or for visitation for family. But maybe that's why they were supported through, like, the company wants her to come, and that was kind of like the fuel that allowed the B1, B2. So she does not have to change her status when she's here at all. It's if she wants to remain here, and if your child is also on F2 and is here, then they would have, yes, you would have to do a change of status at least after 3 months of entering, if that's something where you guys change the intention, right? But you don't have to. You don't have to change statuses. They could just leave with their same B1, B2 status.
Yeah. Okay. My friend got laid off recently and is on STEM OPT, which is ending in June this year. If he doesn't get a job before this year's H1B lottery, what are the options for him? Oof.
Well, it depends, right? There could be a few options. Like I said, I really think the O1 visa is a good option for people, especially that are recently graduated, that have all of these accomplishments, skills, work, research, that they memberships, associations that they can show and prove. I think it depends also on where they're at, but a lot of these are employer specific. Um, Unless your friend has like an amazing profile already, then maybe even an EB1A could be a route to take. But with the priority date delays with Indian National specifically, they would still need some other type of status to remain, right? So that's the most important thing. A lot of employers that I've seen that really like a candidate are doing both the H1B lottery and also something else, one. If they're applicable based on treaties, maybe you need two. But it depends on each person. But I see the H1B and O1 as really good options.
Yeah. Yeah. But in this case, he also has to find a new job. So it's going to
Right.
be rough.
It's gonna be hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my H1B petition was filed on July 1st and still in processing since 204 days. What should I do considering current situation?
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's if I would suggest the attorney send the service requests, send everything that they need, right? Inquiries, ombudsman requests. But the only sure way to get a response is, I would say, is to bite the bullet and pay for premium processing. So they have to give you a response within 15 business days or 3 weeks. I would say honestly that's the best option if the attorney has done everything in their power to try to get a response. Again, this is a long time to wait for an H1B still. So I would
Can they
say,
can he do a premium processing now or no?
yeah, you can file it at the same once it's filed or later on too. That's not a problem.
So like he's been waiting for 204 days and he's like, okay, I'm so done with this. Like I'm just gonna pay premium processing. Even though my employer doesn't want to, I'll pay. And can he do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. That, like I said, premium processing with H1B clients specifically is the only thing that an employee can pay for, is the premium processing.
Mm.
So they would just have to upgrade their case to premium processing. Their cases will get immediately transferred to one of the premium processing offices, and then you'll get like an email notification, you and the attorney, stating that it's been received. And then you'll see the start date of when the 3 weeks or the 15 business days start.
Yeah. Okay. I applied for initial OPT on October 30th. My start date is today. No approval. I may get an job offer by February 20. Should I upgrade to premium processing?
No approval yet, make it. I mean, you're close, right? And if you don't want anything to impact the job offer either, like they want you to have it all approved and everything, then I would say, yeah, maybe the best bet is just to file premium processing. That's the only way. Money talks now. Unfortunately, before there was the inquiries used to work, the ombudsman requests used to work, all
Yeah.
of these different facets used to work. But now the only thing that has a solid chance of working is filing premium processing, which I recommend.
Mm, yeah. Okay. On H1B, laid off in September from employer A. Within 60-day grace period, I filed for B2. B2 approved in December. And next day, H1B approved from employer B. Can I travel on employer's A's H1B while working for employer B? There was a gap between H1B 60 days and B2 approval.
Right. That's kind of the issue that I'm really thinking of too, because you technically had a change of status, so you didn't have H1B, and now you have a new H1B status based on your prior. What I would say, traveling shouldn't be if you're going to travel, you should try to schedule a visa stamp. So because of that, I would not travel at the moment, and just remain in the United States.
But does he need a new visa stamp? He already has an old one.
Yeah, right. The only thing that I'm worried about is because of the gap of the B2, right? Technically, you don't need, technically you don't need one, right? And I can also double check. You don't need one because you should, the H1B, you just, it just says valid H1B, right? Valid H1B status from this end to this end on your visa. But then you internally, right? You did a
Yeah,
change of
he,
status and you lost it.
yeah, he went from H1B to B2, and then he went back to H1B.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And because of that gap, that's the only thing that I would be worried about is, let's say you do that. Let's say, no, you're fine. And then you leave, you travel with the employer A H1B. You come back and and the officer says, but wait, you didn't have H1B status. You actually, it was, you lost it. You did a B2 change of status. And then right after that, you got a new H1B status with a new employer. So no, you need to do a visa stamp. You need a new visa stamp with a specific H1B because technically this current H1B status is invalid. That's the only thing I'm worried about them saying.
yeah,
So just especially because of a lot of officers don't understand full immigration stories or histories. I would say probably in the Biden administration, if this happened, you should have been like, no, I would have had no questions about it. You should have been completely fine. But with this current administration, with a lot of officers too, either being very new and not understanding full protocols and just trying to be having the highest scrutiny to be kind of as harsh as they can. I would say that it's not the best idea to do it unless you have a visa stamp appointment scheduled already. And obviously, like I said, as of right now, I'm not going to recommend that. So I would wait to travel if you can.
yeah. And there is a link in the description. There's two links. One can help you get a 15-minute with the lawyer as well. So schedule if you need more clarification.
Yeah.
Because I think there might be more details he can explain one-on-one in the call, etc., versus trying to do it in 200 characters that he can use on the chat.
Yeah.
So for sure, schedule that before you make a decision to travel or not. All right. I know we are over time. We'll just take one last question. I'm on day one CPT, and a lot of documents, including my flight tickets, were asked. Company is not transparent too. I've shared all RFEs as asked. Can 797 be sorted till March or April? At least H1B 2025. Okay, Parth, I feel there's some missing data.
Yeah. There's
But
I feel there's some big points that are missing because we're talking about day one CPT, now H1B. Something happened where the company is not being transparent. An RFE was sent for some reason. Can this all be sorted out by March or April?
or
So
yeah, yeah. If you were on I mean, again, we are speculating here. So maybe Parth, if you're still here on the live, repost some of it. So if you are on F1, sorry, you are on day one CPT, and what was the RFE for? Is it for CPT or is it for H1B?
right.
Yeah, looks like it would be for H1B. I mean, again, I'm not sure.
Right, but then it says H1B 2025,
Yeah,
but
so
then I'm on day one CPT. So
last year's H1B got RFE. All these documents were asked,
yeah,
and companies not giving him the details.
yeah,
So can this be sorted till March or April? Parth, again, I would highly recommend. This is probably where you need this one-on-one consult. Link is in the description. Please schedule one so that way your case seems a little bit more complex than something I would want to do it. Vijay Kumar keeps spamming the chat. So you're sorry, I saw your question. My name on 797A, family name is Vijay Kumar and given name is MT, but on passport, last name is MT and given name is Vijay Kumar. how should I fill DS-160? Oh,
Oh, okay. I recently saw this exact scenario. Um, so okay, right. So family name and then given name is empty. It's first name. It's probably FNU, like first name unknown. And then it's then Vijay Kumar on the 797A. Then on the passport, surname empty and given name is Vijay Kumar. So also I would just note what aside from what your approval notice says, what does your I-94 say? What your I-94 says, you should fill it that way on your DS-160.
yeah. I know I said last question, but this is important. I-140 premium processing fee is getting increased by how much from March 1st? Is that true?
Yes, it is being increased. It depends on the premium processing that you're being given.
You're good. I have dog too.
It's by like a few $100s. Like it's or not even. It's like I think the estimated one is 2,901 for like the average 28. So it's being increased by like $100 or $200 more, only based on inflation. That's the average.
Okay. Cool. All right. Again, thank you, everybody. We will meet next week again, same time. And David, thank you again so much for today. Everybody else, if we were not able to answer your question and if you still need help, link will be in the description. Please schedule calls. I will see you guys in the next week session. Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Yudi. Take care.